Tristan and Todd continued to work in the barn for the next hour and a half. Todd noticed the pet carrier was not in the yard or on the porch as he had asked Amy to do, so he told Tristan to go get the pet carrier out of the red shed. When Tristan approached the red shed, he found his mother lying on her hands and knees with a corn raking protruding from her back. She yelled for his father, who hurried over. Todd instructed his son to get the truck and bring it over. While he waited for Tristan, he did not render aid or call 911. He did, however, pull the corn rake from her back, which he said was necessary in order to get Amy out of the narrow passageway in the shed. When Tristan returned with the truck, Todd placed Amy on Tristan's lap and he drove. Amy was unresponsive and bleeding profusely as her 13-year-old son held her. While driving to the hospital, Todd called 911. The operator instructed him to pull over and walked him through CPR. First responders arrived and took over CPR as they emergently transported Amy to the emergency room. Soon after arriving at the hospital, Amy Mullis was pronounced dead. The initial report from the medical examiner states Amy had 6 puncture wounds on her back. The examiner also discovered injuries to Amy's chin, cheekbone, knees, and knuckles of each hand. The corn rake only had 4 tines, so the medical examiner requested a full autopsy by the forensic pathologist. The autopsy was performed 2 days later and concluded that Amy must have been struck at least twice by the corn rake and ruled the death a homicide. A search warrant was executed on the Mullis home, which included a camera system with 2 cameras covering the property and an iPad. The camera footage was not helpful as no video was recovered from the camera that is pointed toward the red shed. The other camera had footage from September 11th to October 29th but nothing else until November 11th, when it appears the camera was turned back on. Todd explained that the cats knocked the camera system, which is by a window of the house, over and he noticed it on November 11th, the day after Amy died. He said he fixed the issue on that day, explaining why there was no video. The iPad, which was in Todd's tractor, was much more useful. Among the search history on the iPad were things like, did ancient cultures kill adulterers, thrill of the kill, thrill of the hunt, famous quote, no thrill like that of hunting men. Once you hunt man you will always feel thirst. What happens to cheaters in history, killing unfaithful women. What to do with large open chest wounds, and organs in the body, Iowa v. Mullis. To be fair, there were also Pinterest searches on the iPad and searches for wedding gowns. Todd said the entire family used the iPad. Investigators had conflicting reports from Todd Mullis and people who knew Amy. Todd described their marriage as a very healthy marriage, Iowa v. Mullis. In contrast, friends and family of Amy told authorities about numerous affairs, distrust, controlling behavior, and Amy's fear of her husband. When Todd was confronted by investigators, he denied killing his wife and asked what evidence they had. He said, "You want me to confess to something I didn't do," Iowa v. Mullis. Todd said he believed that Amy had a dizzy spell and fell on the rake. In March of 2019, 4 months after the death of Amy Mullis, Todd Mullis was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. In September 2019, the trial started after a successful change of venue to Dubuque County, Iowa. The medical examiner explained that Amy had 6 puncture wounds, 4 going into her back at one angle and 2 others going at another angle. According to the medical examiner, she would have had to be struck at least twice with the corn rake to get those injuries. She had other wounds which were indicative of defensive wounds. Jerry Frasher testified about his affair with Amy, which he said started in May 2018. He said that after Todd became suspicious, they began to utilize email to communicate instead of text messages. He also said, "I know she wasn't happy. She said she felt like a slave or hostage around there. She said she was wanting to leave. One time, she said if he ever found out about the affair she would disappear." Associated Press, 2019. Jerry testified he asked Amy to slow their relationship down after Todd questioned him and his wife. Perhaps the most important witness in this trial was Tristan Mullis. Tristan originally told investigators he was with his dad the entire time they were in the hog barn. However, the 14-year-old testified that he did lose sight of his father that morning. He said he could not estimate how long he was out of sight from his father, but that he went to the office of the barn several times to get water. He said that he found his mother in the shed with the corn rake protruding from her back and yelled for his father. The prosecution also presented several witnesses that said Amy was fearful of Todd, had warned them he would kill her if he learned of her affair, and that Todd was fiercely jealous. Other witnesses testified that he was afraid of losing his farm in a divorce. Finally, the iPad searches were presented as evidence. Some of those searches about adultery and murder were just days before Amy's death. The prosecutor also claims Todd whispers on the 911 call, "cheating whore." The defense did not deny that Amy was murdered, despite Todd's insistence that she was killed accidentally. Instead, they presented the theory that someone else could have murdered Amy that day. They argued that the time it took Tristan to get a drink of water would not have been long enough for Todd to sneak out, kill Amy, and get back to work without any change in demeanor or making any noise. Iowa Assistant Attorney General Maureen Hughes told the jury he wasn't going to let Amy take half of his farm. Being a farmer means everything to him. The defendant had to find a way to keep that farm. Hogstrom, 2019. The prosecution believed that not only was Todd Mullis a jealous husband enraged by an affair, but he had significant financial motives to want Amy dead. The defense argued that, "Oh, they are going to kill me," is a figure of speech and not literal. The defense argued that Todd Mullis did love being a farmer, but not enough to murder the mother of his children. Todd took the stand in his own defense. On cross-examination, he conceded that Amy's death was not an accident and someone stabbed Amy in the back with a corn rake 2 to 3 times, Iowa v. Mullis. Todd Mullis was found guilty of first-degree murder. He immediately asked for a new trial, citing ineffective assistance of counsel because his attorney did not present the accidental death theory. His motion for a new trial was denied, and in September of 2020, Todd Mullis was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. He was also ordered to pay $150,000 in restitution. Mullis plans to appeal his conviction and sentencing.